My name is Alexander Klimanov, and I'm TV and film content director at a project called Transformation Communications Activity, TCA. It's a project of the United States Agency for International Development, USA. TCA is the organizer of a grants contest called PITCHUA Plus. Through this contest, we support production of social impact content in Ukraine. We issue grants that fund production of TV series, movies, and online content. We also organize educational events where international experts share their experience and advice with the Ukrainian audiovisual industry. So PITCHUA is both a grants contest and the educational platform. You can find out more by scanning QR codes on our banners here tonight. This section tonight is presented in cooperation with the educational platform PITCHUA. It's a presentation of an American nonprofit organization, Film Independent, that offers all kinds of support to independent filmmakers. The section's moderators in Hollywood are PITCHUA's experts of many years, which I'm very happy to introduce to you. Adam Siegel and Josh Weinstock. Adam Siegel, a writer, producer, and screenwriter, and Josh Weinstock is an award-winning film producer who also helps out to write scripts for our PITCHUA grantees. So Adam and Josh, the floor is yours, and please introduce our Film Independent guests.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, Josh.
Adam, how are you?
So I'm Adam Siegel,
And I'm Josh Weinstock.
and we have for a number of years obviously been working with PITCHUA. We've also been involved in various talks over the years about basically the craft of filmmaking and of television and of the creation process. So we have a number of videos to that effect. And this year we've teamed up with the Odessa Film Festival, and we're really excited to host our conversation with the team from Film Independent. And for those, maybe not those in the audience, but also those maybe who are watching the video later, the term independent film is a unique American term. To describe films, it was originally created really to describe films that have been made outside of the Hollywood studio system, and would be sort of on par or would be sort of in the same grouping of films that you would see at international film festivals, like many of the European or other international film, art house films. So it was just a way for us to designate the those kinds of sort of types of projects in those films. And with that is the sort of in the name of their organization, the Film Independent organization, which among many things that they do in terms of building artists and supporting filmmakers around the world and in the US, hosts the Spirit Awards, which is recognized as sort of the alternative Oscars, but looking at art films and films that often may have gotten ignored or not recognized. Now it seems they overlap more and more, and that happens every year around the same time as the Oscars. And so why don't we start with a quick introduction to all the different members of the team. Why don't you all just introduce yourselves and then sort of say what you do at Film Independent? Maybe start with Josh.
Sure. Hi. Hello, everybody. I'll kick it off. I'm Josh Welsh. I'm president of Film Independent. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of us at Film Independent, we're so happy to be here to talk with you today. Look forward to getting to know you and share a bit about Film Independent. I've been with the organization about 20 years. Film Independent has been around for 40 years. And I'll stop there. We'll get into more detail about all of our programs momentarily. And I'll hand it over to Maria Raquel Bozzi.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's good morning here in Los Angeles. We are very happy to meet you all. I am Maria Raquel Bozzi. I'm Senior Director of Education and International Initiatives at Film Independent. I have also been working for a long time at Film Independent, 20 years. And currently, I am working a lot with international filmmakers through many programs, and in particular, one in particular called Global Media Makers, which is a partnership with the United States Department of State, Educational and and Arts Bureau. I will talk about that program again later, and the name of the program is Global Media Makers. And Angela?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Angela Lee. I am the Director of Artist Development at Film Independent, where I oversee our filmmaker labs and workshops and special programs across fiction, nonfiction, and episodic, and look forward to chatting with you more. I will pass it over to Luai.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Associate Director of International Programs at Film Independent. I work with Maria on our international programs and Global Media Makers. Looking forward to telling you more.
Hey.
Oh, and I pass it on to Daniel.
Yes, hi. My name is Daniel Cardone. I've been working at Film Independent for about 4.5 years now, and I am the manager of nonfiction programs and fiscal sponsorship. And it's great to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that's
Thanks,
it,
everyone.
right? That's everyone.
The team.
Well, again, thank you guys for joining us. And our hope is that you guys will gain insight into not just what Film Independent can kind of offer, but also sort of the resources and the benefits that come with that. So, Josh, since you were about to kick it off, we'll kick it off sort of with sort of the grand overview in terms of like, what exactly does Film Independent do in terms of like the top level breakdown, both in terms of supporting independent filmmakers and then also international filmmakers as well?
Great. Thanks, Josh. So the grand overview of Film Independent, as I mentioned earlier, the organization started 40 years ago here in Los Angeles. Let me start by saying what Film Independent is not. We're not a production company. We're not a distribution company. We're not a film school. We're an NGO, a nonprofit that exists. Our mission is to support the community of independent filmmakers and the audience for their work. And over 40 years, the organization has grown dramatically. It started out in the early 1980s as a very small collective of filmmakers who came together. It was the early days of independent film in the United States. There were, I think, 6 or 9 filmmakers who came together to share resources and information and talk about how they were making films on their own and getting them out into the world. At that time, it was really independent. People had been making films outside the studio system before that, going back to people like John Cassavetes. But in the early 80s, it really became more sustainable, where filmmakers figured out not only how to make their films, but how to get them out in the world and build an audience for them. With real distribution. And so the Film Independent was started at that early moment, really to figure out how to help grow that sector, how to empower those, how filmmakers could help each other was really the key thing behind the starting of the organization. And as the years have gone on, the organization has grown. We're a membership organization, and today we have just under 8,000 members who live in all 50 of the United States, but also in, I think, about 60 different countries around the world. So it's really become an international organization with the same mission. How can the organization exist to help filmmakers in the current climate, in the current business environment, in the world that we live in today? What do filmmakers need to get their films made and to get them out in the world to have them be seen? And so we do that with a wide range of programs, educational programs, screening programs, and what we call artist development programs that really provide quite substantial, robust, hands-on programs to mentor filmmakers who are developing new work in both film and television. So I should say we support filmmakers working in film and television, fiction and documentary. We embrace it all. And we really try and meet filmmakers on their terms, right? We're here to be of help and assistance and usefulness to the creators. That is truly why we exist. So if, you know, in the last 10 years, we've seen many more filmmakers wanting to work in television, because that's really become a friendlier place for independent stories to be told. And it's very different from working in film. There's a lot of different challenges and different opportunities, but we're trying to help filmmakers in that space as well. And for also, I'd say the last 5 to 10 years, documentary has really taken off in an exciting way. Of course, it has its challenges too. All of independent, we can get into that as another topic of what are the challenges facing independent film right now. But we've really done a lot more in the documentary space in the last few years. But for the program descriptions, I think it'd probably be better for Maria, Angela, and Daniel to talk about your specific programs. Angela, do you want to start and just give an overview of artist development?
Sure. Thank you so much for keying it up. I mean, in line with the overall mission of Film Independent, we run a series of curated labs and workshops for filmmakers. We support artists not only based in the US, but internationally as well. Although it's not completely internationally focused like what Maria and Loai do, we do support international filmmakers. We have programs including a screenwriting lab that is for feature-length screenplays. We have an episodic directing intensive for those who are interested in moving into episodic directing. We have a episodic writing lab for those with original half-hour or hour-long original pilots. We support producers through a producing lab for fiction feature-length projects and projects in post-production. We are also, and I'll let Daniel talk more into it, but we also support nonfiction producers in a 1 week producing lab and a 1 week documentary story lab for documentary directors. We also have a fast track finance market where we support both fiction and nonfiction projects that are in the packaging phase, and over the course of 3 days, introduce fiction filmmakers and their projects to up to 60 executives. And for documentary filmmakers over the course of a day and a half, 20 to 30 documentary executives. And then we also have Project Involve, which is a program unlike the others where it's not project focused, but filmmaker focused. And it's for those filmmakers who intend to be in Los Angeles for a year or making the transition to LA, and supports filmmakers across writing, directing, producing, cinematography, editing, and those interested in becoming executives. And collectively, they create 6 high production value shorts that premiere at the end of this 9-month-long program. I think that's a high-level overview of a lot of our programs. I guess I would say that the goal for most of these programs really are threefold. One, to build community, introduce yourselves and artists in these programs to other like-minded filmmakers who can support your work beyond the end of the program. It's to propel projects forward, both creatively and strategically. And then finally, I think what we all always are looking for, expanding access to the industry. So we look at our programs both from a creative standpoint and from a business standpoint. I'm going to pass it over to actually Daniel to talk a little bit more about nonfiction and fiscal sponsorship.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, as Angela mentions, we know our nonfiction programs, traditionally we've run a 2-week documentary lab. This coming year, 2024, is the first year we're going to split that into 2 different labs, one focusing on story which will be a rigorous examination and creative exploration of rough edits of films to basically streamline and enhance the story that they're trying to tell. And then we're also going to be running a separate producing lab for documentary producers, focusing on the documentary business side of things and also sustainability and careers. As well as that, I also run the fiscal sponsorship program that Film Independent has. So fiscal sponsorship, as a nonprofit, Film Independent can extend that nonprofit status to selected productions, which means that those productions are allowed to fundraise for donations in the US, and the donors to those projects get a tax deduction on their donations. So it basically functions like people are making charitable donations to your film. It's a great incentive to get donors to give to your project, because not only are they supporting a great project, but then also they're getting a tax break for themselves. That is open to international filmmakers, as is both the documentary programs. And there's a lot more to discuss there and how that works, but I'm sure we'll get into that later, and I'll also be able to give out my details later for anyone interested in how that works in more detail.
And then over to Maria Bossi, Head of Education and International Initiatives.
Thank you, Josh. So before I speak about all of the educational, the international programs, I would like to say a little bit more about our education programs. Unlike the artist development programs that Angela and Daniel just spoke about, we have a very robust education department that offers a lot of workshops, seminars, and conferences in a non-selective way. Anybody could come to these conferences. It's not project-based, but there's a lot of capacity building programs that we offer. Very soon we'll have a program called the Film Independent Forum, where we will bring together producers, mostly producers, to talk about how to make, sell, finance, and distribute your films in these days. So it's a conference that is always providing the most up-to-date current practices for financing and producing films. So that's one example of a conference that we offer. We also offer a conference about directing with all the directors nominated for the Independent Spirit Awards in February, and also with the most esteemed filmmakers working today in independent film. So based on these programs and the artist development programs, we were 10 years ago, we got a grant from the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs of the United States Department of State to create a program that would build a bridge between American and international filmmakers. That program was named Global Media Makers, and that is our biggest, that is the biggest international program that we have that I will start talking about in particular, because I think it's a program that will be of great interest for Ukrainian filmmakers. The program was built, as I said, 10 years ago, and we started working in 5 countries in North Africa and West Asia. And through the years, we have grown now to serve 20 countries and counting. We are currently operating in Asia and in Africa, all of Africa. But the good news is that starting this year, for Ukrainian filmmakers, we're going to start working in Eastern Europe, and we are going to build a special focus for Ukrainian filmmakers. The Global Media Makers program encompasses different components. Usually we travel to the countries and regions where we work just to learn more about the current practices and the way people get trained and the way they make movies and the challenges and opportunities they might have to meet all the stakeholders. So this opportunity that you guys are offering us to speak directly to Ukrainian filmmakers is really, we really appreciate this opportunity. And then we, from our trips and from our learnings, we start reaching out to get nominations for filmmakers from each country that we want to serve. And we serve these filmmakers with a residency in Los Angeles. It's a 6-week residency in Los Angeles. The filmmakers that come to the residency in Los Angeles must be mid-career filmmakers, and they must be working on a project that they want to develop. And they develop this project here in the United States with the support of creative advisors and mentors who are working professionals in the film industry here in Los Angeles. The program, if you are selected to this program, you become family for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not, because we will keep supporting you. I still keep in touch with filmmakers that came to the program 10 years ago. They are my friends. So I love that. I have gotten to see the world literally through the eyes of filmmakers. So all of that to say that we're open to Ukraine now. And when, the filmmakers return, the third component of the program kicks in. We return to the countries where the filmmakers come from with workshops. We work with the filmmakers from each country to build workshops that are meaningful and helpful for the broader community, filmmaking community in their own countries. So we have gone to many countries. Right now, Luai is serving a lot of filmmakers that are coming to Lebanon from Iraq because unfortunately for some security situations, we couldn't go to Iraq, but we still wanted to serve Iraqi filmmakers. So for example, Luai is right now in Lebanon and he's going to host this amazing workshop for filmmakers from Iraq, combining with some filmmakers from Lebanon. So that's what we do for the Global Media Makers. We also offer other residencies. We work with governments in different countries to build programs that are tailored to the needs of their filmmakers. We have worked with Australia, Taiwan, South America. So we are working in a lot of different regions with different programs. We also have a program with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, formerly Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which is currently the Golden Globes. And we host a residency here in Los Angeles with people who have gone through the Biennale College in the Venice Film Festival. Since this is applicable to all of you, I'm going to okay, did I say that the residency is a scholarship pretty much? People that get selected for this program come to Los Angeles, all expenses paid. You get your accommodation, per diems, your flight, everything if you get selected for this program. So it's kind of a little bit of winning the lottery. And I'm just going to if we have time, let Luai speak to, and I think that's one of the things he wanted us to address, who qualifies and how to apply, because we're working for real for Ukrainians now. So I think this will be of great interest. And Luai, anything you want to know about the program and how to apply?
Yeah, just a rundown of the application process and selection process. That'd be great.
Sure. And I apologize, I couldn't make it. I just landed in Beirut, so I couldn't make it on time. So I'm taking it from public's room. So yes, our application is annual. We start receiving nominations for filmmakers from May until August, and the application usually opens at the end of August, and filmmakers have 4 to 5 weeks to complete it. So that our deadline is usually first week of October. Filmmaker, we are looking for mid-career filmmakers, and we define mid-career by filmmakers who have 2 to 3 short films, produced short films, and with the credit as director, writer, or or you can have, of course, a feature film or a couple of feature films. For the application, you need to submit a project in development, whether feature film in fiction or documentary or episodic. And with the application, you would submit a draft of your script, a complete draft of your script, or for documentaries up to 40 minutes of an assembly. It's a pilot script along with a season outline. And then we usually take several months to look through the applications and review them, because we receive applications from around the world. We work in several regions, as Maria mentioned, and we notify filmmakers usually in the early spring. And the residency takes place last week of May and throughout the month of June. Maria, did I miss anything?
No, I think that you got it all. I just wanted to say one last thing. I think we built this program to build that bridge between American and international filmmakers. But the beauty of it that we were not really seeing as clearly when we started was that we really were building an international network. I really think that's the best part of the program. Filmmakers from diverse backgrounds and many different countries meeting each other and finding each other in this huge world of filmmaking and really building these relationships amongst themselves. That is the real beauty of this program.
Yes, and we've seen a lot of collaborations between filmmakers from different regions, between Nepal, filmmakers in Nepal and Turkey, Turkey and Lebanon and Morocco. And whenever we are traveling to regional festivals, it feels like a reunion, because we see a lot of our fellows in those platforms as well. We actually had 2 fellows win some really good awards at the Amman International Film Festival.
And just to be clear, are we talking about the application process would start October of this year, right, for Ukrainian?
That's the deadline, but because it's the first year that we're working with Ukraine, we would be a little bit, don't publicize it, but a little bit more flexible with some of the Ukrainian applications, because we're building our own network of nominators and meeting filmmakers. So it takes a little more time in the first year to build those, put these things in place that will allow us to get a lot of nominations. So we're getting some, but we could be a little more flexible. But
sure. And obviously it's a fantastic program, and this is going to be new for everyone in Ukraine to learn about this. For those in the audience and watching, like if there's interest, where should they go to the website to sort of get the information? How best can we sort of direct it?
I think at this point, Luai, the best thing is for them, we could post here Will's email. Will Holt is the person who manages our application process. At this point, the easiest thing would be for someone who is interested, who has heard us here and thinks they qualify in terms of what Luai said qualifies you, and tell Will that they attended this program and that they would like to get more information on the application process. Luai, does that sound like the right thing to do?
I'm going to put Will's email in the chat. I will also add what we will need from the filmmakers when they email Will.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
That's perfect.
And we'll double that up with PITCHUA can put that on, obviously, our site. Alex, maybe we can for the people in the audience, we'll create that information or put that information out there.
Right. When we put up the recording on our YouTube channel, we will add this information in the description.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect.
And we will include it in the article that we will publish about this event on our PITCHUA section on Detector Media.
They need to act quickly, though. even though I said, we would have a little more leniency with the application process for Ukraine, they need to reach out quickly so that we can account that there will be people applying.
Well, you need to hear from them
So
at least
if
so
they are
that you know it's coming.
filmmakers, yes,
Exactly.
yes, so that they will have enough time also to complete the application. So what we would, if the filmmakers have a project in development, they have a draft of a script that they can submit, we encourage them to email Will in the next few days.
If you don't have that, or if you're a student at this moment, you cannot apply because there are certain things that we can't, we don't take students at this point.
Right.
Yes, but
It's a
when you're ready, you
mid-career. It's mid-career.
Yes.
So people who,
Exactly.
yeah.
but next year, if you're ready, you can reach out to us, or Adam and Josh, and let them know about your project, and then they can make an introduction.
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways, look, I mean, when I started working with PITCHUA 5 years ago, I brought to them, and this was something that they were very interested in, sort of the experience I'd had with other labs, like the work that you're doing. This is so really the kind of approach we take at PITCHUA is similar to what you're doing. We're doing it we're actually producing, helping produce the projects themselves. But in this case, this is really an incredible opportunity to not only help develop the project and get it going with sort of experts from various parts of the industry, but it's a kind of a community of people that you start to then connect with. And so over time, you will find relationships both within the film independent community and then people you meet as a result. So it really is a kind of has multiple value experience attached to it. It's incredible. So what we'll spend a little more time just talking about this. I do want to move it at some point to some larger questions, but I think one question for the audience I know will sort of come up because it always comes up for us is what do you look for in terms of like a differential? Like what are the key elements of a filmmaker's application, or what are the things that you think would stand out, or you're just, and it's always a hard question because it's like in a general vague way, but what do you think, what advice can you give for like when you're applying for this, what are the key things that you really want to see?
I think, and I think Angela and Daniel can speak to that as well. I really think it's this unique voice and point of view that somehow I've not heard before, even though it might be a story that I'm familiar with, but it has taken a point of view that seems pretty unique. That is for me very exciting. That's what really stands out for me. And for me, that comes across not only in the material that people submit, the script, but it comes across through a statement of purpose or a statement of interest that we ask people to submit. And the way that is written for me is really important because it speaks about you as a storyteller. And the way you tell your own story and the connection of you to the material, for me, is part of that storytelling that I want to see in you. So for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Angela, Daniel, Luai.
I mean, Maria said it perfectly. I completely agree. It is about looking for that voice, that and point of view that we haven't seen before, and being able to support it. I would also say that for our programs in artist development, a little bit different. We're not fully subsidized like the amazing Global Media Makers programs, but the programs that I mentioned at the top are generally shorter in length. They run from anywhere from 3 to 4 days for our finance market to a week, as our doc labs are, as Daniel mentioned, to 2 weeks. That we have been doing primarily virtually because of the pandemic, though we're looking to move back in person. And similar, I think, to what Maria's saying, our application process for our labs, in addition to the materials required for each particular program, we generally have 2 essays, one which is a cover letter, and one which is an artistic statement. And the artistic statement is a little bit straightforward. You understand what that is. It's, not only talking about the artistic statement behind your project, but also who you are as an artist and what you're trying to say. But the cover letter, I would say for us, and I think another point that's worthy of being mentioned is timing. We are not lacking in qualified and talented artists who apply to our programs. And so the more challenging task facing us is not only finding the right mix for the cohort, but also understanding why your participation in our program or any of the programs I think we're talking about today makes sense now versus next year or the year after. Where are you in your script that you feel like you've pushed it so far within yourself, within your own community of advocates that makes sense to participate in our screenwriting lab? What or where are you in your career that makes sense, that would best take advantage of the people we would be introducing you, both, again, creatively and strategically? This isn't to say that we wouldn't support, let's say, someone who's just making their first film, or that we actually would turn away someone who's made a few films. I think what I particularly love about artist development is that we recognize that artists need support in all different points of their careers, whether they're starting out, whether they're in the midpoint, whether they're trying to make a pivot, and understanding all of that in a very concise way is important to us. And so put that in your cover letter. I would also say that we preach a philosophy of generosity. And so as much as our programs are about giving and sharing knowledge and introducing you as artists to other people and expanding your network and your community, it's also about what do you bring to this new community that you've been invited part of. As Maria says, like, we see this as a family, and once you are part of our fold, you can't get rid of us and we can't get rid of you. Right? We are here, and we see your participation in a program as an investment in your career as a storyteller, not just based on the one project that we're supporting you, but on the holistic side of what you're trying to accomplish as an artist. And so again, understanding all these facets of who you are and why you're why participating in our program is important now is important for you to elucidate in your applications.
I just follow up on what Angela said about what you bring to the table. That is a really important component for global media makers, and it will be part of the application. What have you done in your community to help build an ecosystem, not only for you, but for the whole community? And that is a question that we will ask, and that's something that we want to see. And because, as Angela said, we want to support not only your project and your career, but the broader community as well. So we want to see that in the application as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can add anything more to that because it was so eloquently summed up by Angela. But I will say, yeah, in terms of like, that's one of the reasons, like most people, we do like a variety of different experience levels coming into the labs because there is that sharing of knowledge and everyone can help each other out and build on knowledge or energy or that exchange of information. For applications for fiscal sponsorship, it is slightly different because it is essentially a financial arrangement between the donors, Film Independent, and your production. In that, we like to see well thought out productions that have a good realistic budget and then a good idea of how you're hoping to raise the funds for that budget. It could be a projection. We don't expect you to have everything in place, but just a realistic idea of what areas you're going to target to hopefully raise the funds for your film. And we can also help you with that as well if you're a bit uncertain of that, especially because your international project's hoping to look to raise funds in the US. So there may be some lack of familiarity with the landscape there. So we're very open to helping in that regard. But yeah, but basically the application's generally a good budget and a well thought out financial plan. And that's our primary goal with fiscal sponsorship.
Hey,
I would
Daniel,
like
do you want, oh, I was just going to say, hey, Daniel, since you're talking about fiscal sponsorship and this concept may or may not be new to some of our Ukrainian filmmakers, do you want to walk through an example of international support through fiscal sponsorship just so that they're clear on it?
Yeah, yeah, this is where I don't know how well it exists outside the US. So an example would be, so there was a film through Global Media Makers called Out of the Shadows, I believe, which was an Indian film. And they had raised a lot of their funds to shoot the film outside of the US, but they did receive grants from US-based entities, and those grants had to be facilitated through a nonprofit fiscal sponsorship program such as ours. And so
Sorry, Daniel,
Yes.
can I ask a question? As a lot
Please.
of people here in Ukraine, they actually don't understand what means fiscal sponsorship. And before you
Okay.
start to tell more about the system, could you simply explain in a few words what it means to work in US? Because actually in Ukraine, we work more with European colleagues and not so, I would say even a few producers in Ukraine
Yeah.
for now worked with US. And I think it will be better to start from the very, very
From the
beginning.
very, very scratch. Okay, cool.
Agree.
All right, so as we've said, Film Independent is a nonprofit. Our fiscal sponsorship program allows filmmakers to apply for that nonprofit umbrella to be extended to their production. That means that they can then approach individuals or organizations within the United States for charitable donations, basically, which means giving of funds with nothing being given in return. So not equity investment, not a commercial product placement, not anything like that. Basically just the donation of funds towards making their production, and the donor then gets is able to claim their donation 100% of their donation on their US-based tax return. So it would be like if you're filming in the Ukraine or in Europe or anywhere really, and you have some production funding, but you want to then get more, you can then solicit donations from people within the United States towards your production, and that money would come through your fiscal sponsorship account. The donor would be able to claim a tax deduction, and then the rest of the funds would go to your production, and you would have no tax liability as an entity outside the US. It does work slightly differently if you have a US-based production company, but then that would get into specifics. So if you have a specific project in mind that you think would benefit from this, I would encourage you to reach out to me directly, and we can really get into the ins and outs of it all. But that's the basic, very broad overview of the program, of how it works. And this also applies to, as I was going to say with this example with Out of the Shadows, that production, which was an Indian production, got grants from 2 different US-based granting organizations. So with a US fiscal sponsor, it does allow you to then also look for funding from granting organizations within the US as well. And it provides that conduit for the funds to get to you. But then you could also say, reach out to, if you had a film that was about a particularly Ukrainian or European issue, but there was a group of those people living in the US who you believe might be able to donate to your production or might be interested in donating to your production. It gives them a safe and reliable way for them to do that, so they know the funds are going directly to you. Yeah, did I miss anything? Is that
masterclass on fiscal sponsorship right now.
But because every production is, oh, sorry.
And one small
Please.
comment, maybe you can also answer the question. So if Ukrainian film or international European film wants to be screened at or broadcasted in US, fiscal sponsorship could help this, because all financing resources put in production of film should be like guaranteed. You have to open these financial sources. And am I right that in case you work with a fiscal sponsorship organization in US, you guarantee that in the final, when you find a US broadcaster, you can help to if you gain money in US territory, you can confirm the sources of where you got this money to go through these safety measures and to get permission to be screened on TV.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, so yeah, if you get picked up or licensed or your project is bought, you can provide a record of like your financing for the film. But basically, if you've financed the film, it's probably, to be truthfully honest, you're probably going to finance your film from multiple sources. But if one of those sources is through fiscal sponsorship, your relationship with your donors does not necessarily extend past their donation. So it's not like having an equity investment where you are responsible to that investor. Once someone has made the donation and they've received their tax rebate, then you don't have any obligation to have any relationship with them at all after that. So that leaves you free to then, if your film gets bought by a distributor or licensed by a television station, you don't have any responsibility to them or even to us in terms of you don't have to pay back any money to those people. If that
Right.
is your question.
I think if your question is a little bit also about just due to the anti-corruption practices conducted in Ukraine and in various countries, they have a system of verifying where money comes from. So I think is that kind of where you're getting at?
Yeah, so absolutely would be able to provide you with the full records and everything, just authenticating every transaction as well, so that there's no question of where the funds were coming from.
Great. I did want to add something really quickly to something that Angela said about the timing of the project. Sometimes, for global media makers, the timing, we love everything, but the timing is not right, especially for documentaries. And I just wanted to let you guys know that in that case, sometimes we have work with the artist development programs at Film Independent, where we provide a fellowship for filmmakers to participate in the artist development labs. And for Ukrainian filmmakers, we're going to place, when we do those fellowships, a special emphasis on the documentary labs. So if there's a documentary that perhaps is great, maybe it's not right for us, or we can't take it because the timing is not right, we sometimes share these submissions with Daniel and Angela, and they can select these. And if they select these projects for the artist development labs that happen in Los Angeles on a shorter time, then we, global media makers, will provide the funds for you to be able to come and take advantage of this wonderful opportunity.
I would just say that's we've had so much joy in supporting international filmmakers supported by global media makers in our artist development program. One example is writer-director Ayten Amin out of Egypt, who due to timing and other things wasn't able to participate, I think, in the full global media makers program, but we were able to support her feature project, debut project, Suad, in our screenwriting lab. And so it's a little bit different because she was able to really build relationships with primarily North American US-based artists, which is also a different experiences from just being within the international community. And we were so pleased to see the film premiere at Cannes a couple of years later. So definitely encourage nonfiction filmmakers, of course, first to apply to global media makers, but also know that we on the artist development team may also be looking at it for our documentary programs.
And Angela Ayten sends her regards because she's with us in Beirut. She's co-teaching the film, the workshop, and we're screening her film as well.
She's a good
Please give her
example.
a big hug for me and tell her I say hi.
That is a good example of someone we never let go.
Yes. Well, I think it goes back to, and Maria, we all talk about this, the full circle of everything. I myself went through the filmmaker labs that Josh curated way back when, with my work. And, now I've come back and love being able to give back and support the next generation artists. And, Maria mentioned our upcoming event, the Forum, which is really primarily led by filmmakers who've gone through our artist development programs and have participated in Film Independent in multiple different ways. And I think for those who work in the nonprofits, we really don't seek much, but when things like this happen, these stories, it just brings us so much joy. And I think we just love really being able to nurture as many artists as possible.
Well, you've kind of done this already, because I wanted to expand this a little bit about sort of the larger issues going on with independent and, festival, these kind of international films, the business of it. And I think in what you're talking about is sort of answering the question ahead of time, but I wanted to sort of talk about it more directly, which is, there's been a lot talked about. I think Ted Hope has written an essay that people may know of. If you haven't, it was called Indie Film is Dead. And basically he's been giving talks at different festivals about basically the fundamental broken system. For those who don't know, Ted Hope, is referred to as the godfather of independent film. He's been involved in many, many, many great independent films in America. But basically he's saying the system needs to be rebuilt. And so I'm leading the question here, because I feel like you're already sort of talking about it. How does that happen? I mean, how do you see, with all the challenges that people have, how do you see that process of rebuilding, or what does that new type of independent film system work for filmmakers today, both in the US and internationally?
I'll take a stab at answering that. I mean, it's a really great question. It's very difficult to answer succinctly, but I would say, first of all, this is a really challenging time internationally for film and television. The industry is changing so quickly, so dramatically. There are a lot of forces at play causing those changes, but for the individual filmmaker, for somebody who's starting out or early in their career and developing, like trying to tell their more personal stories, it's a very challenging economic landscape at the moment. And independent film in the United States, candidly, the term independent is sort of a problematic word, because nothing is independent. Where independent film has historically been very dependent. We're separate from the studios, but we've been dependent on the studios, right? We've been dependent on the overall film economy, which is driven by the studios and streamers. And so, a film is made independently, premieres at the festival circuit, but finds its way into the world by being distributed by a studio or a big streamer. So we're always reliant on, and I'm sure internationally that the notion of independence is also problematic, because you're dependent on other forces, like maybe government funding, or countries where there's different types of cultural censorship. There's levels of dependency there as well. But what's going on right now in the United States, and I would say also internationally, is the streamers have just completely upended the model of how films get out in the world and how filmmakers get paid. And in the United States, the box office, people going to theaters is way down. I mean, it's come back this summer a little bit thanks to Barbie and Oppenheimer, but it's really been, a lot of movie theaters went out of business during COVID and they haven't come back. And which is, hopefully they will come back, but it's not looking great. And it definitely directly impacts filmmakers. If you're starting out, 20 years ago, the expectation was your film would come out theatrically. You would be paid for, some amount of money for that experience of having your film in theaters. Then you would sell it to television or DVD or whatever. All of those different steps of selling and releasing your film have been compressed. And now things are more and more just going straight to streaming. It goes like, you make your movie, you play at a festival, and it goes to Netflix or Amazon or someplace like that. And the amount of money that filmmakers are getting and producers are getting is much lower. So it's become economically tougher to sustain a career, to see any return on your investment, on all the work that you put into your film. And it's caused a lot of people to really look at the whole model in the United States and say, how can we, that's Ted Hope is really saying the whole thing is broken. This is not working for the artist. For filmmakers to get out and tell a story and share it with the world in a meaningful way and be compensated in a meaningful way isn't happening. I think there's a lot of truth to what he says. And he's definitely been in the trenches for decades and knows what he's talking about. I think, but the question, how do you address it and build an independent ecosystem or film industry that is separate from the studios and streamers? I don't know how you do that. I think that's what people are trying to figure out. Is there a way that we can do that? But what I come back to, just, fundamentally, at Film Independent, we love filmmakers and we love films that have, as Maria and Andrew were saying, the reason we do this is because we love movies, and we love movies that show us a slice of the world that we haven't seen before, voices that we haven't heard before. And that's, I think, what people crave. Whatever's going on with the industry, there's always a need for those new, fresh voices, filmmakers that you haven't seen before, where you're like, wow, this person made this incredible movie, and it's, and then it blossoms and reaches an audience. And that's what we're here to support. So part of me this is not addressing Ted Hope's challenge of how do we build something new, but it's just to say, whatever's going on with the industry, however hard things are, we're here to support the artist and the filmmaker who's trying to develop that original, bold vision. And we're always going to do that. And we have an underlying confidence that somehow that is going to come out in the world and be seen. I don't know, Maria, Angela, Daniel, if you have anything to add on that.
I just want to say, as a recipient of your great philosophy, just to kind of give a little background on myself. So many years ago, I was working on a project by this new filmmaker that no one was like, what are you trying to do? She was a Chinese filmmaker wanting to tell films on a Native American reservation in South Dakota. And her name was Chloe Zhao, and I produced her debut feature. And, to tell a story, I applied to the producing lab, and they're like, Josh and his team were like, we love you, but we don't quite see the vision behind this film yet. And I said, you just wait until you meet this writer director. And he met with Chloe and his team, and Josh, I remember telling you, she's like, oh, you're right. She definitely has this voice. And she was selected to the Film Independent Screenwriting Lab. And Film Independent was the very first organization to support both Chloe Zhao and myself through the programs, and continue to support our work in making her debut feature, which nobody was excited about. And I'll give it a plug. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's called Songs My Brothers Taught Me. And, set the way for this new point of view in her subsequent films, The Rider, and then ultimately Oscar-winning, Spirit Award-winning film, Nomadland. No one in the industry, no one in Hollywood knew that they wanted stories like this at that point in time. No one could see it. But a place like Film Independent, which didn't have a stake with, commercial viability, recognized that vision and that boldness in storytelling and gave us a shot to get this movie made. And it wasn't easy. And I don't think any of us would be here without that support, because it is so hard. And so now to be part of this team that is able to continue that advocacy on behalf of voices that the institutions, whether it be Hollywood or anywhere else in the world, some support is incredible. And we will continue to fight on behalf of all artists for that. So Josh, thank you for your vision and belief in myself and Chloe way back when. I will also say that I think, yes, the industry is broken. First of all, though, I would say what I've learned in my privilege of traveling with Maria and the Global Media Makers team on a few trips internationally, and to the point of the filmmaker in the audience who asked about, primarily Ukrainian films are built with European co-production partners, is that there's a reliance on government funding. There's a reliance on international co-production financing to get projects made. And when I've traveled and spoken about producing internationally, they're like, but the government's not funding us. Well, in the United States, the government never funded us to make movies. We are constantly looking. I don't come from money. And let me tell you, it's been a journey to get projects made here in the US. That just goes to, I think, the fire and passion in us to recognize if there is a story, if there's a voice that needs to be told, and you feel passionate about it, you will figure out a way. Just like Chloe did when we couldn't find the full budget for our first film, we pivoted and made what we could with what we had. And I think in this day and age, to Josh's point with regards to, look, the Pandora's box has been opened on streaming. Audiences, like, we can never go back to what it was. We also have to recognize who our audiences for films these days. Are the younger audiences going to theaters? Do they care about it as much? Do they care about this format as much? Like, I think what's exciting about independent filmmakers, wherever they are, is that we have to think out of the box, out of necessity. I think through constraints, we actually tell stories even more beautifully. When you're given unlimited resources or more comfortable resources, I don't think that forces like that boldness that you can when you're in a pinch. And I think this is the same place that we're in now. It's not going to be a quick solution, but I think we have to think about audiences. We have to think about, you know, maybe subversive or innovative is a better word, innovative new ways to tell stories that we want to tell in a way that audiences like it. Yes, we have to play within the system of what it is, but I think something that's important that Film Independent is also doing that we really haven't touched on much at all is also audience building. We have a really robust events programming team, not only in person in Los Angeles, but like through online screenings and whatnot. And it's about building audiences in, different communities and not just the major metropolises, to get eyeballs and support around these, great stories that we're all doing. Something I've been talking a lot about is, as an independent producer, I'm trying to figure out ways to get funding for our movies or get eyeballs on movies. And I'm like, do we have to take it back to like, regional like road shows and college tours and get like youth audiences and like areas that you wouldn't think about in like the Rust Belt of the US or like the Heartland or the South or whatever these different communities are excited about what we're doing because the streamers aren't doing it. I think there's it's not easy. And I'm not, I don't know if I even have the wherewithal to do it, but I think as a community, if we band together and we want to figure this out, there's no better group than like independent artists to figure this out. It's easy for Ted Hope to, not easy, but just like to say, oh, it's dead. The sky is falling. I think for those in the indie space, we've heard these catchphrases every few years when the industry is in a challenging place. Yet somehow I think we find a way out of it. So storytelling and great storytelling has survived for like forever, and we will figure out again. And I think that's what's exciting about what we do.
I'd like to see if there are any questions in the audience here at this point. Yeah, we have a question. There is a microphone right there. You need to press the button and hold it. You need to hold it.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Bogdana, and I'm a filmmaker from both Ukraine and the US. I've been splitting time between New York and Ukraine, living a little bit more in New York. My question is whether this kind of dual identity would fit the global media makers request. And my other question is that program for writers directors? Because my debut project is written by somebody else, but we developed the script together, and we were part of the Gotham Week, and we were part of we had a special mention at Writers Lab and stuff like that. So I'm curious to know whether I would be possibly a good fit or not.
The program is open to writer, directors, and producers. In your case, if you are a dual national between
I am Ukrainian. I'm not a dual national.
Okay, but I'm going to get into technicalities here. It needs to be someone who does not live in the United States, who does not have a residency in the United States. It's because the program wants to support and engage with filmmakers that live and will go back to live in Ukraine. And then, then it gets into all the type of visa So, but in there, it is for writer, directors, and producers. We rather that the director that is coming with the project is the writer, just because sometimes when sometimes when they return and they have gotten notes here, then there's a writer somewhere else who does not want to work with whatever progress the film has made here.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are more questions.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
I have a question about fiscal sponsorship. As I'm a British film producer, but that's still, I know I worked on a dozen movies in the UK, but that's still a totally novel concept to me, which is interesting. And I think it's an interesting idea for Ukrainian filmmakers because there has been an unprecedented amount of support internationally from individuals who are looking to support, programs. And there might be people who are interested in supporting cultural programs that aren't able to support, things that maybe support the military and things like that. So I think that is really interesting. I guess my question is, does your status not affect then any of your other financing if you've received financing from a distributor, from any of the for-profit institutions?
No, it doesn't affect it. So you can raise money through fiscal sponsorship, and I sort of mentioned this briefly earlier. So you can have funding from a number of different sources, like equity investors or a pre-sale or something, and then still raise money through fiscal sponsorship as well. The thing that it does get a bit in terms of bookkeeping and accounting, you need to make sure that there's no commingling of those funds, and that people who have donated or rather people who have invested aren't also claiming a tax deduction and things like that. So there just needs to be that clear separation. And we also require annual reporting where you're accounting for where all that money from fiscal sponsorship has gone. But no, you can definitely source funding from a number of different sources and have them all work together. And we have more information that goes into that specifically that I can give out as well.
Great, thanks.
More questions from the audience? No more questions here in the audience. I just would like to summarize. Maybe Adam, Josh, you can help me out. So from what we have heard, for Ukrainians to be able to participate in this, they basically need to go to the website and prepare all the materials.
Email. Well, first of all, email Will, and we'll provide that email. So the most important thing is for anyone interested in this program to contact Film Independent as soon as possible so that they know you're there. And then they will kind of lead you through the process, the application process. This is because this is a new program. I'm sure you don't know how many people you're going to get. It's all kind of new. So the sooner you can get known by the folks at Film Independent, the better. Because they're just trying to kind of get a gauge of all the different potential participants in the program.
All right, so it's that email that appeared here, right? Just 1 second, Angela. It's that email that appeared here, and the one that we will put in the description of this recording on YouTube. So get in touch with Film Independent as soon as possible via that email.
Global Media Makers is absolutely worth applying to, but as Maria alluded, if potentially, you have residency status or, or visas in the US that may preclude you from qualifying from Global Media Makers, our screenwriting lab within artist development, the applications are currently open, and you can find out more details and apply through our website for our screenwriting lab, which is scheduled to take place in April 2024. All you need to have is a completed draft of a feature-length screenplay. No other attachments are necessary, and then submit the application. So if you have any questions on that front, please do apply. I will also mention a couple fellowship opportunities that that we support as well. This is possible to receive in our screenwriting lab or any others, but we have a partnership with the Caton Goldrick Foundation, which supports a Jewish filmmaker in one of our programs with a $10,000 grant. We also, for those filmmakers who might not be familiar with the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, this is a general call out that I mentioned in all of our conversations. The Alfred P. Sloan Foundation is an organization committed to promoting the authentic portrayal of science and technology in fiction storytelling across feature-length films and episodic television. They've partnered with multiple organizations, including Film Independent, the Sundance Institute, a lot of graduate film programs to support artists to tell the story. And they have no shame in saying, we've got money, write stories in this, in this space. And we, as organizations who are looking to support artists, are constantly on the lookout. And we have a $20,000 grant for an artist with an original screenplay, original teleplay for our episodic lab. We give out a $20,000 grant to a project producing and directing team in our finance market. And we've given it to international projects as well. Actually, we gave one to a Bangladeshi filmmaking team. We've given it one to an Indian filmmaking team. We've given one to a German filmmaking team in the past. So certainly very applicable to international filmmakers. We also give a $30,000 Sloan grant to a producer of a fiction feature-length project as well, and a $50,000 distribution grant for a finished film that's going into festivals premieres and or theatrical distribution. If that film qualifies within the Sloan mandate, we'd love to see it. So if you'd like to learn more, please do go to our website. There's a lot of funding for films of this nature by the Sloan Foundation. And so I hope you'll take a minute to get to know them. And if you have any questions about any of the artist development programs, please don't hesitate to reach out to Daniel or myself.
And can you put the address of the website in the chat, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that the documentary lab will open for applications in late October this year, and fiscal sponsorship has no deadline. You can apply at any time. But before you do, I encourage everyone to reach out to me via the website. Go to the staff page. There's a picture of me and an email address. And yeah, just reach out to me directly and we can get into a more detailed conversation about your project that way.
We have one more question here in the audience.
So, hello. Sorry,
We hear you.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to clarify, is the submission fee $65?
For our
the
screenwriting
lab?
lab? For our screenwriting lab, it's $65, or if you are interested in becoming a Film Independent member, application costs are $45. And we haven't talked about membership, but for $95, there are a lot of benefits, including discounts on applying to our programs, but also the possibility to view virtually all of our Spirit Award nominated films each year, and to be able to vote for the Spirit Awards and see so many online screenings and conversations. I'm not the expert to speak about it, but I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
I was just going to say a word about that, which is, I think you covered it, Angela, but yeah, we are a membership organization. Anyone in the world can join. And for people who live in Los Angeles, we do a lot of in-person events on the ground in theaters all year long. But for people who don't live in LA, we have a robust online screening program. We screen at least 2 films a month online, which are available to watch anywhere. In the lead up to the Spirit Awards, when we announce our nominations, it's usually about 45 to 50 films and TV shows that are nominated each year. All of those are made available to our members to watch securely online. And yes, you get to vote for the winners of the Spirit Awards. And then Maria, educational programs, some of those are also available online. There's really quite a lot you can access from the organization. whether you live in Los Angeles or not. So if you're interested in joining, we'd love to have you. And you'll get endless emails from us with announcing every upcoming deadline, and you'll be very much in the loop.
So you should sign up for our newsletter either way to get information about our deadlines and programs.
That's right.
I've been a newsletter receiver. I was a member and a newsletter receiver for over a decade now. So, and it's a great organization. So
We're gonna have to fix that. I was.
Well, see, I'm inspired. And it's just getting back to know everyone. I think, when I was saying, when I started working a lot more in Europe about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago, started interacting more with the festivals. One of the things that I noticed, someone pointed out to me, was that there are more film festivals in the world than there are independent films every year. And I was like, okay, that's telling me something, right? Because it's, a lot of people, you can organize a film festival, but making the film, right, like that will show there is really quite the challenge. And kind of what I was leading at, and that's kind of why I'm sort of emphasizing this for our audience, is that like film independent is exactly how you start to rebuild this industry, right? Like you need organizations like this. The film festivals are now all doing this. Obviously there are organizations like PITCHUA that are doing it in specific countries in Ukraine, but this is really how you need this support. Even before the full-scale invasion in Ukraine, like you needed this support, but now Ukrainians need it more than ever. And I would also add that, in terms of rebuilding things and resourcefulness, yes, wait till you see Ukrainian filmmakers, right? Because Ukrainians really know how to do that, right? So so this is a really an opportunity for Ukrainians to sort of get involved. And it was like a perfect synergy moment where when we reached out to you, you happen to be now focusing and looking at working with Ukrainians. So we really want to encourage everyone to go on the website, find out more about Film Independent, particularly obviously the filmmakers and obviously people in other areas in television and definitely documentary, to look at these resources, because this is how to solve this, right? This is really how you start to rebuild, because you need the support to do it.
All right, I think it's been a great conversation. Very useful and practical presentation. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Adam and Josh, for helping us organize this, for putting this together, for bringing everyone together. I hope that our guests here tonight and those who will watch the recording later online will get a lot of important and useful information. So we will post all the links and the email addresses in the description to the recording so people could get in touch with you.
Yeah, Alex, real quick,
yeah,
because Louis just posted it on the chat. So for those who don't have access to the chat, the Global Media Maker application is free. So there's no charge for that.
All right, we've shown that to everyone. I just pulled it up almost full screen so everyone could see that.
We're inviting you to apply.
Okay.
And tell your friends. Tell everyone.
Absolutely.
Make sure everyone knows about this.
All right. Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.